Hi there, thank you. So my name's Aaron. I'm the founder of a company called Kronos Labs, and for the past 18 months, I've been building on Bitcoin. I created BitPaste, AudioB, and Preserve, and a number of open source libraries such as ProxyPay, TreeHugger, and TiddlyBit, all fantastic names, and Operate, which is what I'm here to talk about today. But before I get onto that, I wanted to explain why I've been doing this work and what I've been up to. And the answer to that is I simply just wanted to learn about Bitcoin and learn about building apps on Bitcoin. So I've been going on a bit of a journey, learning as much as I can, intentionally trying to expose myself to different bits of Bitcoin that I wanted to understand. And it's been good fun, I've learnt lots, but I've been enabled to do this by the people that have gone before me. So the people that have walked to this path and learnt the things that I wanted to learn, and the tools and the resources that they have left behind. So in BS3, we have quite a healthy ecosystem of tools. We've got wallets, such as MoneyButton and RelayX. We've got APIs like MatterCloud and SDKs like CanCash Connect. And of course, we've got Unwriter's contributions, such as Planaria, and we could be here all day, all of those. Tools like this, they allow developers to be more productive and work more efficiently. They allow developers to do what they do best, which is focus on the problems that they need to focus on to build their app. So developers don't need to reinvent the wheel every time, and they don't need to get bogged down with some of the more time-consuming technicalities of Bitcoin. But fundamentally, tools like this just allow developers to do what they do best, which is just play around with code, break things, fix them again, and learn from that process. And that's what I've been doing. And developers are allowed to then be creative. And when developers can be creative, and when they're learning new things, when you get that combo, that's when the magic happens. And in the past 18 months, the magic has been happening. This chart is showing all of the new developments and products and apps that have been coming out since the fork. And there's a lot. You can barely read them on this massive screen. But I think what this shows is that there is an energy and an enthusiasm to learn about Bitcoin. People want to build on Bitcoin, and people want to play around with this technology. And that's what we're seeing. And now, like I say, I've been enabled to go on this journey by the people that have gone before me. So people like Unwriter and Brian X. Charles and many others and the tools that they have left behind. Now I want to turn that round and give you the tools that will allow you to go on that journey and allow you to be creative and learn about Bitcoin. So in November, I launched Operate, which is something that I've been working on all of last year. Operate is a system that lets you put functions on chain, and then in transactions, you can use those functions to create smart little programs that do clever things. The way we can visualize this is that Operate is a software layer that sits above Bitcoin. So Bitcoin itself becomes more of a storage layer. It's where we put our functions and where we have programs that include data. And then Operate will load those programs, loads all the functions it needs, it executes it all, and then it returns some kind of value, some kind of data object back to your application. But because these programs are contained in Bitcoin transactions, they share the same basic properties of a Bitcoin transaction. So all the inputs and the outputs and the scripts and hashes and signatures, all that data that is in a transaction is available to our programs, so we can use this approach to layer new types of functionality and new types of services delivered over Bitcoin. If we were to visualize a program in Operate, we could see it like a tape of cells where each cell is a procedure call, or each cell is a function. So we are calling a function, and we can pass parameters to that function. So we can encode bits of data in our transactions and pass those bits of data to a function. That function exists somewhere else in another transaction, and it's just code. And so it's a function, it receives parameters, it does some stuff with those parameters, and then it will return a value. That return value is known as the state. So in our tape of cells, the first cell returns a state, and then that gets piped into the next cell, which is another function. And it does some more things, and it returns a new state, which then gets piped into the next cell. So cell by cell, function by function, we mutate the state until the last cell in the tape returns the final value of the program. So I'm going to try and give you some use cases. This is a real quick presentation, so just going to whip through this, and we're barely scratching the surface, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea. So first up, we can do data mapping. Already today, the vast majority of Bitcoin transactions are data transactions. So developers like me and many others in this room are creating data protocols and then trying to make them interoperable with one another. And it turns out this is quite a hard thing to do. So Operate makes this easier because your protocol becomes a function, and that function exists on-chain, so there is one canonical implementation of that protocol, which anyone can use, and these functions can be used in combination with other functions, so we're actually creating a kind of extensible data protocol. So we can then create functions that will map bits of data into complex structured objects, objects that have nested objects many levels deep and arrays of other objects. And so then anyone loading that transaction will get the data, the structured data, in exactly the format that the creator of the transaction intended. So as well as mapping data, we can do stuff with the data. Our functions are just code. All right? So that we can do computation, we can do mathematical operations, we can generate random numbers, we can iterate over arrays, we can loop in Bitcoin, we can do crypto operations like verifying signatures and decrypting encrypted data. If you can code it, Operate can do it. Another thing, as well as returning static data, we can return functions, other functions, either an anonymous function or objects with functions attached to that object. And then within our application, we can call those functions. So this provides a way for us to pass data back from our application environment or our user session and pass that back into our programs in Bitcoin. This can be used for handling encrypted data, so we can put encrypted data in a transaction and just return a function back to our users that handles the decryption, and you just pass it a private key. There are lots of use cases for this. We can also extend the VM. So in Operate, your functions are written using the Lua scripting language, which is a very simple language. It's a minimal language. But we can extend it. So we can create modules and functions in our host application, in the language of our host application, and there is a way of them exposing those to the Lua VM. So then in our on-chain functions, we can interact with those extensions and call those functions. So in effect, this provides a way to create a Bitcoin transaction that calls a function in your application and perhaps triggers some kind of off-chain process. But I think what these last two slides show more than anything else is that that line between where Bitcoin and your application starts and ends is getting blurry. So Bitcoin is becoming part of your application, and transactions are containing some of your business logic. So if you want to find out more, you can head to the website, operatebsv.org. I'm putting lots of new content on there all the time, articles, trying to improve the documentation. There's a Twitter account you can follow. But if you want to use the software, then you need the agent. There's a few other bits to operate, but the agent is the main thing. This is what would sit in your application and allow you to interact with the system. So the current agent is written in Elixir. It's available now. So if you're building with Elixir, you can use this now. But I suspect if I did a show of hands of the number of people using Elixir in this room, it might be disappointingly small. So I'm pleased to announce that coming soon, there is going to be a JavaScript agent too. Thank you. This was something we worked on last week. I was in Lisbon with the Cambrian team, and I teamed up with a guy named Merlin Bisnek, who's in here somewhere. So thank you very much, Merlin. It was a bit too much to achieve in 1 week, but we've made a good start, and coming soon, this will be available. It will allow you to use Operate in both the Node and browser environments, and will be 100% cross-compatible with the Elixir agent too. So that is coming soon. That's me done. I'm about a minute and a half early, but thank you very much.
Hi, it's Hannah Jackson for CoinGeek.com, and I'm here with Aaron Russell from Operate. Hello.
Hi there.
Now, first of all, tell me about the tools that are out there for developers who want to build on the Bitcoin blockchain.
So BSV has quite a healthy ecosystem of tools for developers. There's wallets and buttons like Money Button and RelayX. There's APIs and SDKs, and there's all sorts of tools created by Umwriter. And fundamentally, it allows developers to work more efficiently and be more productive, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. They don't have to get bogged down with some of the more time-consuming technicalities of Bitcoin. And that just unlocks them. It allows them to be more creative. And when you get that creativity and developers are learning new things, that's when the magic happens, and you see this explosion of apps that we've seen.
So tell me about you and Operate.
Okay, so Operate is a system that lets you put functions on chain, and you can then create transactions that use those functions, which opens up all sorts of interesting and new use cases. It allows developers to be more creative and implement new and novel solutions to create their own apps and products.
So you were at Cambrian SV in Lisbon. This is your first CoinGeek conference. So how do you feel being thrown into the world of Bitcoin SV? Are you enjoying it? How do you feel?
I've just been thinking about Bitcoin left, right and centre. But I think one of the things that I find really impressive with this space is there's some incredibly impressive people, some really brainy people, and you can't help but be impressed with the people in this space and the things they're working on and the products they're creating.
So moving into the future, the rest of this year, next year, what's on the horizon for you? Anything exciting you can let us in on?
We're working on a JavaScript implementation of Operate. So that's a work in progress, but I'd hope it to be available very soon. And I think that's exciting because it opens Operate up to a much broader selection of developers and products. I'm really excited to see how people can use Operate and what kind of use cases they put it to, and the kind of applications and products that they build with it.
Exciting year ahead for everyone, isn't it?
It is. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.